Josh Padilla could be Ohio State's surprise starter, and Ryan Day may already be using Ian Moore as the perfect offensive line smokescreen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ian Moore has been discussed as the likely left tackle for months now. If Moore takes that job, Austin Siereveld moves to right guard. That has felt like the obvious plan. But look a little closer at what's going on here. Ryan Day has publicly opened the door to several different combinations. Phillip Daniels may not be completely untouchable at right tackle. Siereveld might remain on the outside if that or he could possibly go to the inside, and we'll see what happens there. If Padilla, if he suddenly comes in, then maybe Siereveld does stay on the outside. Well, in this episode of the Buckeye Huddle podcast, I'm going to show you why Padilla could start, while Ohio State may not reveal its real offensive line during the first open practice, and why this decision could determine whether Julian Sayin has enough protection to beat Texas. And stay with me, because the most important part is not whether Moore or Padilla is the better individual player. It's which five-man combination gives Ohio State the best offensive line. I'm John Rhodes with BuckeyeHuddle.com, where we give you deep Ohio State coverage, recruiting, elite recruiting intel, and all the non-toxic. We don't need the toxic stuff over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We got you covered over there. So here is what's going on that we need to talk about as we prep for fall camp coming up. Carson Hinsman is the center. Luke Montgomery is left guard. Those two positions, they appear settled. We feel good about those. From there, the Buckeyes have at least three significant questions. Does Ian Moore win the left tackle job? Does Austin Siereveld move from left tackle to right guard? And is Phillip Daniels definitely Ohio State's best option at right tackle? The easy projection would just be that Moore is at left tackle, Montgomery at left guard, Hinsman at center, Siereveld at right guard, and Phillip Daniels at right tackle. And that may still be the answer. Like, that might be the case. I'm not here to convince you that that's not going to be the case. But I do want to talk about how Day reportedly included Padilla when discussing the offensive line's top group. There is also a second legitimate combination of Siereveld staying at left tackle, Padilla starts at right guard, and Moore either remains the sixth lineman or he competes with Daniels at right tackle. Day wants the staff to begin settling these questions around the 9th or 10th practice of camp. That is why the first three open practices could be misleading, but are still worthwhile for you to go to. You can buy tickets for those and go there for those, which would be awesome for fans to do. I encourage everybody to go do that can do that. Ohio State knows everyone will stare at the first five players who line up together immediately and immediately declare them as the competition's over. These are the guys. The coaches know it. The players know it. And Texas probably has somebody watching it too to try and figure it out. Although, Texas has enough transfer players in themselves to get it all figured out. I don't think they're going to be focusing too much on Ohio State at the beginning of practice. The point is this, though. An early lineup is evidence, but it's not the final verdict. That is not going to point you to what the answer is going to be. It's just going to give you a clue. The most misunderstood offensive line battle at Ohio State is not Ian Moore versus Austin Siereveld at left tackle. It is Josh Padilla versus the entire assumption we have made about the starting five. Most fans have already written the lineup in permanent marker. Ian Moore at left tackle, Siereveld at right guard, Phillip Daniels at right tackle, and fill in the rest with everybody we know, right? But Padilla changes that equation. If the staff believes Siereveld is still the safest option at left tackle, Padilla can win the right guard job without beating Moore at Moore's natural position. He only has to prove that Siereveld at tackle plus Padilla at right guard is a better combination than Moore at tackle and Siereveld at guard. That is completely different competition, and it's something that makes finding your starting five on the offensive line so very difficult. And Padilla has almost nothing to lose in this scenario. If he does not win, he remains a valuable backup at center and guard, but if he performs well in camp, he can go from reserve lineman to protecting a Heisman finalist in just 1 month. So do not, just watch who lines up in the first, at the first tackle spot. Watch Padilla, because the offensive line nobody expects may be the player who determines where everybody else starts. And this is where we need to separate an individual position battle from an offensive line puzzle, right? Building an offensive line, it's not always just like selecting your best five guys. There are so many other things that go into it: ability, aggression, your size and your wingspan. All of those things go into it. Building an offensive line is not like selecting your five highest rated players in a video game. It's more like assembling a basketball lineup, right? The best five individual players are not automatically your best starting five. You need communication, complementary skills. You need players operating at positions where they are comfortable, and every move can create a second move somewhere else. It's like time travel, right? You do one thing here and boom, something else happens over here, and boom, something else it's all connected, right? If Moore wins left tackle, Ohio State is not making one decision. It's making at least two different decisions, because Moore, if he goes to left tackle and Siereveld leans to go to right guard, that could be a major upgrade. And Siereveld's power may translate beautifully inside. Many people think he is built to be more of a guard at the NFL level. He would play next to Daniels and Hinsman rather than handling edge rushers in space. Moore has the length and the natural tackle profile Ohio State wants, protecting Sayin's blindside, but there is a risk. You would be moving a proven left tackle to a different position in order to install an unproven left tackle. That does not make it the wrong move. It just means Moore cannot merely look just adequate and win that position. He needs to be good enough to justify changing two spots on the offensive line. The alternative keeps Siereveld at left tackle, puts Padilla at right guard. That creates more continuity on the edge and gives Padilla the opportunity to win a job at a position where he already has experience. Padilla is a player with nothing to lose in this competition. If he does not start, he remains a top reserve. If he wins, he makes a massive jump from backup to first team guard. You look at two different combinations here. You have combination A, where you have Ian Moore, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Austin Siereveld, Phillip Daniels. That's the combination everybody's kind of expecting to happen this season. But then you have combination B, where you could have Austin Siereveld, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Josh Padilla, and Phillip Daniels out there at right tackle. But there is also a third possibility that has not received enough attention, right? What happens if Moore proves he belongs in the starting five, but Daniels struggles at right tackle? Then you would have Moore and Siereveld as your potential, two tackles on the outside, and Padilla inserting in at right guard. That possibility is why Day mentioning Daniels as someone competing for a position really does matter. It does not mean Daniels is losing his job or anything like that. It means Ohio State is testing the entire structure rather than protecting preseason assumptions, which we all knew was going to happen when Arthur Smith came in. We just maybe didn't always think of every single option. And honestly, that is exactly what the staff should do. Arthur Smith should want to come in and figure out the five offensive linemen that he trusts the most out there. The offensive line was criticized heavily after last season, the way it ended. Yet Ohio State did not react by replacing half the room. The staff largely brought back the group, other than Tegra Shabola, developed it physically, and trusted the continuity plus competition could produce improvements. That is either confidence or stubbornness, one of the two. Camp will tell us which one. The season will tell us which one. But the phrase Ohio State will play its best five offensive linemen, it sounds simple, it sounds easy, but it's not. And honestly, it's not always right, because the fifth best individual lineman can sometimes create the best overall combination, and sometimes it won't, right? Let's say Ian Moore is slightly better than Josh Padilla in a vacuum. That does not automatically mean and settle the lineup that Ian Moore is going to be in there and Padilla's not going to be in there. If Moore starting at left tackle forces Austin Siereveld to move inside, and Siereveld is less comfortable at right guard, the total line may not improve. But if Siereveld stays at left tackle, Padilla performs well at guard, Ohio State can keep that continuity of one of the most important positions on the field. That is actual calculation and not just, star ratings and, player ratings on EA Sports, type of game. So the staff is not asking, is Ian Moore better than Josh Padilla? They're asking, is Moore at left tackle with Siereveld at guard better than Siereveld at left tackle and Padilla at guard? Those are not the same question. And there may be a third option, as I mentioned before, if Phillip Daniels does not lock down the right tackle spot. So when the first practice lineup leaks, do not treat it like the Ten Commandments. The answer is not one player. The answer is a combination that gives Julian Sayin the cleanest pocket when Ohio State walks into Austin. That brings us to why this matters beyond the August depth chart and, entertainment. Julian Sayin was a Heisman finalist last season. You wouldn't know it by the way some people talk about him this offseason, but he was. He set a regular season completion record. He has Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, and a talented group of wide receivers coming back this season, some of them transferring in, but some of them as recruits, young true freshmen. But this offense is trying to become more aggressive. Arthur Smith is installing more play action. The Buckeyes want more explosive plays. They may vary the tempo more often instead of being quite as methodical. Legend Bay could possibly get some really good run, maybe 5 carries a game this season. Those concepts require protection, play action, ask the offensive line to sell the run before establishing the pocket. Deep routes take longer to develop. We saw that against Miami. Moving Sayin under center changes his footwork and the timing of the entire play. If the left tackle cannot hold up, Smith's expanded playbook shrinks immediately. You cannot spend the entire offseason building an NFL-style roster and then call 3-yard quickouts because the quarterback doesn't have enough time out there because his left tackle is letting every single edge rusher run loose, right? That is why Moore's potential ceiling is so exciting. The idea of this all raises the possibility that he could emerge as not only as a left tackle, but perhaps as Ohio State's best offensive lineman. If that happens, the rest becomes easy. That you put him at left tackle, move Siereveld inside, and let Sayin enjoy the extra half second possibly. But that is also why Padilla remains important too. If Moore is not clearly ready, Ohio State does not have to force the move just because everyone predicted it in May. And don't forget, Padilla is the one that has played more snaps in his career. He's been the one that's been trusted more in his career. There's no trophy for correctly guessing the offensive line before minicamp begins. There is, however, a real cost for putting the wrong 5 on the field against Texas. And let's talk about the smokescreen portion of this. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that Ryan Day's lying or anything like that, okay? It's just a fun way to say it, okay? That's all we're saying here. But a preseason smokescreen can simply be allowing the public to focus on one obvious storyline while the staff evaluates several other ones, especially since he knows Texas is going to be listening to everything he has to say as much as the fans are, right? So every question has been about Moore at left tackle, pretty much every question, but that attention is convenient. It allows Siereveld to work at multiple positions. It allows Padilla to compete without carrying daily headlines. It allows Daniels to be pushed without the conversation immediately becoming, is he good enough? Is a returning starter getting benched and those things? Meanwhile, the media receives only a limited window into camp. Everything here warns us that preseason alignments can be, a tactical thing for coaches to kind of put out there. And like I said, not necessarily against fans, but sometimes against opponents. Seniority does matter. The cameras do matter. A player working at one position during an open session is not guaranteed, though, to remain there against Ball State or against Texas. So what should we actually watch for? What should we actually look for? First, watch where Siereveld spends most of his time. Not just the first time, but most of his time. If he works almost exclusively at guard, that's strong evidence that Ian Moore is genuinely winning the left tackle competition. If Siereveld continues to rotate outside, the competition is much less settled than a person will say. And like I said, you're going to be watching this all throughout camp. You're going to be looking for this, listening to this, and we'll have you covered on this all throughout camp. Second, watch Padilla's reps with Hinsman and Daniels. Offensive lines develop chemistry in clusters. The guards and center need to pass off stunts. The guards and tackle need to communicate on twists and pressures. If Padilla repeatedly works beside the expected starters, that matters more than one ceremonial first-team rep. Third, you need to listen to how Day discusses Phillip Daniels. This is very important, all right? You got to know the way Ryan Day speaks. If you don't know, don't worry. worry. We'll come on here and we'll explain it to you. But if Day begins praising Phillip Daniels' consistency, that probably means the right tackle spot is stabilizing. If the language remains focused on, competition, finding the correct five, the door is probably going to remain open for Moore to move to maybe even the right side, or Siereveld move to the right side for another combination to emerge. Those are the most important things to look for in fall camp. Watch Sireveld's position, watch Padilla's partners, and listen for Daniels' name and how it's talked about. And here's the open loop I promised at the beginning. Why could Padilla be the key, even if Moore is the more talented player? Well, it's because Padilla gives Ohio State optionality. He can play guard. He can back up Hinsman at center. His emergence allows Siereveld to remain outside. It also gives the staff protection if someone struggles or gets injured. Padilla does not have to become an All-American to change the entire line. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying Joshua Padilla needs to be an All-American next season. He only has to become trustworthy. And that is a crucial distinction for Ohio State to be trustworthy. Ohio State's offensive line decision could decide the Texas game before either team takes the field. And that's not an overreaction. Arthur Smith wants more play action, more explosive plays. Julian Sayin is being asked to take the next step against pressure. None of that works if the Buckeyes choose their starting five based on preseason expectations instead of actual camp performance. If you go look at the game against Texas when Travion Henderson took the screen pass for a touchdown, a lot of that was because of the excellent blocking he had out front in that one that allowed him to burst through the hole and make it all the way to the touchdown. So if Ian Moore is clearly Ohio State's best left tackle, you start him. Move Austin Siereveld to guard and do not look back. But if Moore is only slightly better individually and Siereveld is significantly more comfortable outside, the smarter lineup may include Josh Padilla at right guard, and it may, if Phillip Daniels struggles, Moore could still start at right tackle while Siereveld protects the blind side, or vice versa. Move Ian Moore to left tackle and Austin Siereveld at right tackle, right? This is why the competition is bigger than just Ian Moore versus Joshua Padilla. It's about whether Ryan Day can ignore the easy answer and select the combination that gives Sayin the best chance to stand tall in Austin. And I trust he will. He's got Tyler Bowen on this. He's got Arthur Smith on this. He's going to be watching this. I think he will make the best decision. Ohio State does not need the most predictable five. It needs the five players who function as one unit when Texas starts bringing their pressure. So which combination are you choosing? Let me know in the comments, and please do like the video while you're at it. This is my takeaway. This is the main takeaway for me. Joshua Padilla starting would not necessarily mean Ian Moore's failed. It could mean Padilla's emergence allows Ohio State to keep Siereveld where the staff trusts him most, or it could mean Moore starts at right tackle instead of left. There are multiple paths here. There is more paths than people are giving it credit for. With 4 returning offensive linemen, you wouldn't think there'd be this many paths, but there are. And that's why declaring the competition is finished after what everybody sees on August 6th is not a good idea. Don't do it. Keep watching all throughout camp. Listen to what Ryan Day says. The strongest outcome is obvious. Moore becomes a dominant left tackle. Siereveld looks natural as a guard. Daniels stabilizes the right side, and Padilla becomes a dependable sixth man. But Ohio State cannot choose that lineup just because it looks best on paper. It has to earn the best five status through camp. And my prediction is this, that Padilla will remain in the competition much longer than fans expect. Even if he does not start against Ball State, his performance will force the staff to seriously consider keeping Siereveld at tackle, and you could see some rotation this season, and maybe even Siereveld rotating from tackle to guard, or maybe from the right tackle spot to the left guard spot. We'll see. Everyone's watching Ian Moore, but Josh Padilla may be the player who decides this more than Ian Moore does and everybody else. Please do subscribe to the Buckeye Huddle podcast. Go to buckeyehuddle.com. Give us a like and let us know what is your starting five combination in the comments below. And then if you have not seen it yet, go on over and check out the Arthur Smith video we did about the changing offense and some of the stuff there. That video is here on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not and you're on podcast, no worries. I will put the link in the description for you. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Have a good one.